Hello, everyone. So we're moving on here to week 5. I will be posting it here in just a couple of minutes. Um, and I just want you to watch this video, just a short lecture here about what week 5 and module 2 is all about. Um, really quick before we do that, I had a question about assignments and where to turn in um, your platform paper. So all the responses are kind of in a row, and I know that you probably see a little bit differently, but if you scroll down towards the bottom, platform papers towards the bottom of module assignments, um, that's just kind of what, where you should turn that in. So for module 5, starting today, well, really Monday technically, but I'm posting it today. Um, it's going to be all about what should students learn about social studies, and that is a very hotly debated topic. Um, and we're going to look at it in week 5 and take a look at, well, if I click on start here, I will show you within this week, we will be dividing some of the readings up. So if your last name starts A through E, you'll be doing the Wisconsin Social Studies Standards. If your last name starts F through L, Minnesota, and so on. So just take a look at that. You don't have to read all of the standards. That's not necessary. But answer the analysis questions and of course post to the discussion board. And so we do have a discussion board because there's no module paper, essay, or project for this one. That will come in the next 4 weeks, I believe. So more on that later. Right now, what purpose do standards serve in the classroom, social studies classroom? And in my opinion, they play a very big role because usually that is really what by law we have to teach our students. Um, anyways, so we'll go back. Here's module 5. Like I said, I'll be posting it here in a few minutes. And here is the presentation. So here we are. What should social studies students learn? State and national standards. There's a little bit of both in here. National, state, and local standards. Really, it's whatever your local school board adopts is what by law you must teach. So usually that's state standards. However, that doesn't mean you can't sprinkle in some national standards like C3 framework or the Common Core anchor standards in social studies. And of course, there's always variations of local standards as well. As far as like local opportunities in Superior, Wisconsin, we have a lot of opportunity with Lake Superior here, and we have a school forest, so we incorporate that as well. So traditional social studies has been usually just facts and figures, and unfortunately, that's really not what social studies is. And anyone, especially nowadays with Wikipedia, you can look up any fact that you want. Obviously, you need to know something, but what do we really need to know? What are the topics that you should really know in history and for social studies? And there's been more of a progressive wing of social studies, really more emphasizes critical thinking and is more multicultural and inclusive than in the past. National history standards in 1994, they kind of combine historical thinking skills and historical understandings. And that's to say that there is one understanding of history, which there obviously is not. And so people that don't study history really don't understand that. And history is a debate based on whatever artifacts or resources that we have available to us. So in 1991, Bush senior administration started looking at standards and then passed by Congress in Clinton 1994. Then, of course, Lynn Cheney, Gary Nash, there was a huge debate on what social studies should be teaching our kids. And some people, including Lynn Cheney, thought it should be more patriotic and rah-rah USA. And others said, well, we can also show the maybe we could look at the negative side of our history and maybe try to improve that, you know. So, but I mean, if you think about it, you know, what we teach our kids is, I mean, our future. And so obviously I would say that's going to be pretty controversial no matter what. There's a couple of articles here. It might benefit for you just to take a quick peek at it. In fact, I have a couple up here. Here's the Lynn Cheney and the Culture Wars. Even if you just skim the first couple pages, you don't have to, but I find it very interesting. Then economy of garages. Lynn Cheney's attack on history standards 10 years later. Here's Nash's article on Lynn Cheney. So there's a debate there for what we should be doing in teaching our kids, and which historical events are worth studying and what is not. Right here it said she pronounced the standards of project a disaster, giving insufficient attention to Robert E. Lee and the Wright brothers, and too much on Harriet Tubman and so on. So I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a debate that's almost impossible to win because there's so many different um, major historical events. And what do you consider a major historical event? What do you consider worth covering? Are you talking about the major movers of history? Or are we talking about the more common folk? You know, it's an interesting debate. But going back to the PowerPoint, so take a look. I mean, that's just kind of the debate the last couple decades here. And of course, here's culture wars of the 90s, 2000s, accusations of revisionist history, American exceptionalism, and so on. Like, what is America, this exceptional place, or do we have our flaws and we can maybe work through those flaws? I don't know. So next up, here we go. Yearly revisions of state standards cause intense debates over what to include, not to include, and of course, you know, Texas is debating, you know, whether the heroes, participants of Alamo were heroes, whether to include Hillary Clinton, Barry Goldwater, Helen Keller. I mean, Helen Keller was a very prominent socialist at the time, but a very big historical figure as far as her achievements. So, like I said, for me, it's nearly an impossible thing to include. I would say is for me, I would say like if you're debating whether participants at the Alamo were heroes, that would be a great debate. In fact, I would, as long as the kids can prove it with evidence and understand the evidence and critical think around it, that would be good for me. That's what I want the kids to do. Then you have the national standards here, who was created by and so on. State standards, and state standards is important. I mean, Arizona and California will have different standards than Wisconsin and Minnesota. Like California has a lengthy list of dates and facts. New York has a lot of analyzing and questioning, and it's more a little bit closer to Wisconsin, the new Wisconsin standards. Common Core is just being, you know, career ready. Their literacy standards are very important. They really emphasize literacy. And then, of course, we have the Wisconsin standards. I really think it's important that you know at least a little bit about the Wisconsin standards. And for me, the big thing is that inquiry is the big push here, which is I've really been bringing that into my classroom where students do a lot of researching. Each unit I do has a mixture of behavioral science standards, political science, history, geography, economics. And usually I emphasize like two of the standards in each unit, and really make sure guarantee students get those two standards. And this is over here how they're kind of broken up or broken down. Moving on, here's an example of a standard for Wisconsin. Then you have a bit of Minnesota standards. And here's another example of Minnesota standards. There it is again. Like I said, we'll all be kind of reading these. I have my 30-second time limit here. So read through the standards, and we'll be doing a lot of work in these units based on the standards. Here's the C3 framework, and learning how to break down standards and really how to teach them. So I really think that it's important that we get to know these standards. But take a look at the PowerPoint, read through some of the stuff, and then do the readings. If you have any questions, as always, email me, please. And I hope you have a great week.